So what can a 400-year-old essay possibly teach us about friendship in our, super connected, always online world? Well, as it turns out, pretty much everything. Francis Bacon's essay Of Friendship isn't just some dusty old piece of literature. It's an incredibly relevant guide to one of the most basic things we need as humans. So let's dive in.
Bacon starts things off with this absolute knockout of a quote from Aristotle. It's a really provocative idea, right? It forces you to ask, what does it actually mean to be alone? Is it some higher godlike state, or is it something else? And Bacon has a very strong opinion on this.
And that brings us to our first section, alone in a crowd. This is where Bacon really starts to unpack that whole idea from Aristotle, and he points to what he thinks is the most miserable kind of loneliness you can imagine.
Okay, so Bacon makes a really important distinction here. He says, look, if you seek out solitude to think big thoughts, to meditate, maybe to have some kind of spiritual connection, that's one thing. That can be divine. But if a person has this sort of natural, deep-down dislike for society, if they just want to get away from people, well, that's not being godlike at all. To Bacon, that's more like a savage beast.
And this quote just nails his next point. You can be standing in the middle of a packed city square, totally surrounded by people, and still feel completely, profoundly alone. I mean, that metaphor is just so powerful, isn't it? Without a real connection, all those faces around you are just like paintings on a wall. There's no life, no real interaction.
He even doubles down on this with an old Latin proverb that honestly feels like it could have been written yesterday. A great city, a great solitude. It's the paradox of modern life, right? We're all packed in together, closer than ever, but it's so easy to feel totally isolated.
So here's the real takeaway from this first part. For Bacon, the worst kind of loneliness isn't being physically alone. No, the truest, most miserable solitude is being surrounded by people, but not having a single person you can call a true friend. That's the core problem that friendship is here to solve.
All right, so if that's the problem, what's the solution? This leads us to what Bacon calls friendship's principal fruit. If loneliness is the disease, then what exactly is the cure that friendship gives us?
The number one benefit of having a true friend, according to Bacon, is this. It's the ease and discharge of the fullness and swellings of the heart. I mean, listen to that language. It almost sounds like a medical diagnosis. He's talking about all those emotions, joy, fear, doubt, anger, that literally swell up inside you.
Think of it like this, a safety valve. Our hearts fill up with all this stuff, and if you don't have anywhere for it to go, the pressure just builds and builds, until, as Bacon puts it, you start to suffocate under the weight of it all. A true friend is that release valve. They let you vent all that pressure before it becomes totally toxic.
But Bacon doesn't stop there. He pushes this idea even further. He argues that friendship isn't just helpful, it's totally unique. It gives us something that nothing else on earth can provide. And he lays it all out in this next section, the heart's only cure.
So he points out that back in his day, 17th century medicine had a specific cure for pretty much every major organ. You could take sarza for your liver, steel, basically iron, for your spleen, flowers of sulfur for your lungs, and even something called castoreum for your brain. It seemed like there was a fix for every physical part of the body.
Every part of you had a remedy. But what about the heart? The center of all our emotions, our passions, our fears. What was the prescription for that?
And here it is. This is his incredible conclusion. For all the potions and remedies in the world, there's only one thing that can truly open up a heart that's closed off and heavy with burdens. A true friend. It's not a medicine you can swallow, it's a connection you have to build. And to really prove his point, Bacon looks to some of the most powerful people who ever lived. Kings, emperors, rulers. In this final section, the king's greatest need, he shows that this desire for a true friend is so fundamental that even the most powerful people on earth would risk literally everything to find it.
Which really makes you wonder, right? Why? A king has all the money, all the power, an entire kingdom at his feet. Why would he be so desperate for a friend that he'd be willing to take huge political risks just to have one?
Well, here's the fundamental problem. Real friendship, the kind that opens the heart, has to happen between equals. But a king, by definition, has no equals. He's on top. So to get a true friend, a ruler has to basically lift someone up to his level, to make them an equal. And in the world of politics and power, that is an incredibly dangerous thing to do.
And yet Bacon shows us
The smartest, strongest rulers in history did this over and over again. You've got Julius Caesar and Brutus, Augustus and Agrippa, Tiberius and Sejanus. History is just filled with these examples of leaders who understood that this need wasn't a sign of weakness. It was just a basic human necessity.
And let's be clear, they weren't doing this to find a buddy to hang out with. They did it because they needed someone, just one person, they could share the absolutely crushing, isolating weight of power with. A kind of burden so unique that not even their closest family could really understand or help them carry it.
And all of this brings Bacon's 400-year-old wisdom right back to our lives today. He's forcing us to look past the 1,000 friends we might have on social media and ask a really simple but really deep question. In this world full of connections, who is the person that truly opens your heart?